Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. For our next excerpt, now Shukadeva Goswami is narrating to Maharaj Parikshit the story of Ajämila. And although Ajämila was born as a Brahmana, once he was being sent to collect some ingredients for a sacrifice, and he saw some kind of illicit sexual affair going on in public. So because of that, the lusty desires in his heart were awakened, and he gave up his own young wife and took that lusty woman who was actually a prostitute and maintained her. And he spent his life simply committing sinful activities. He was doing so many sinful activities and also eating the food cooked by a prostitute. So he had 10 sons, and on his deathbed, he saw the messengers of Yamaraj, the Yamadootas, and they were coming, and they were very ghastly and very mean, and he could see that they were coming to take him someplace he didn't want to go. So his youngest child was there, and he was very attached to that youngest child. And so he called out his child's name, Narayan! Oh, I didn't even have to ask you. Thank you. Now he was calling his son. He was not calling the Narayan that you just called. You weren't calling for some boy, were you? You're calling for God. So Narayan heard that, and he sent his messengers, the Yamadootas, and they told the Yamadootas, stop. You cannot take this man to hell. This is the first time this had happened. The Yamadootas had been undefeated every time they were sent to get a sinful man. No problem. Snatch that soul. Bring him to Yamaraj for punishment. This time, they were stopped. So there was a discussion. So let me give you now this discussion. Just a little excerpt. Pay attention. You're going to learn something. That's why you're here. Not just to eat. You're here to learn something. The blessed messengers of Lord Vishnu, the Vishnu-Dootas, said, if you are actually servants of Yamaraj, then you must explain to us the meaning of religious principles and the symptoms of irreligion. What is the process of punishing others? Tell us, who are the actual candidates for punishment? Are all karmis engaged in fruitive activities punishable, or only some of them? These are very good questions. So let's see what the Yamadootas know. Let's see if they can answer. The Yamadootas replied, that which is prescribed in the Vedas constitutes dharma, or religious principles. And the opposite of that is irreligion. The Vedas are directly the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayan. And they are self-born. This we have heard from Yamaraj. The supreme cause of all causes, Narayan, is situated in his own abode in the spiritual world, but nevertheless, he controls the entire cosmic manifestation according to the three modes of material nature: Sattva-guna, Rajoguna, Tamo. That's goodness, passion, ignorance. In this way, all living entities are awarded different qualities and different names, such as Brahman, Kshatriya, and Vaishya. And they are given different duties, and they have different forms. Thus, Narayan is the cause of the entire cosmic manifestation. Now listen to what the Yamadootas say. Very instructive. Sun, fire, sky, air, demigods, moon, evening, day, night, the 10 directions, water, land, and Supersoul himself all witness the activities of the living entity. Are you scared? You should be. You can't keep any secrets from Yamaraj. 13 witnesses. When they do these court cases, they'll call in the witness. Oh yeah, I saw him, he did it. All right, bring in next witness. I saw him, he did it. They bring in all these, and the jury, oh really? Okay. And then of course the other side brings in their rebuttal witnesses. But when witness after witness after witness says he's guilty, chances are you're going down. 13 witnesses sees everything we do, and they don't sleep. It's not that, oh, the witnesses now they're taking rest. The witnesses are constantly there. The candidates for punishment are those confirmed by these many witnesses to have deviated from their prescribed regulative duties. Everyone engaged in fruitive activities is suitable to be subjected to punishment according to his or her sinful acts. O inhabitants of Vaikuntha, you are sinless, but those within this material world are all karmis, whether acting piously or impiously. And both kinds of action are possible for them because they are contaminated by the three modes of nature and must act accordingly. One who has accepted a material body cannot be inactive. Just like right now, what's Hiran doing? He's playing with the keyboard. Why? Because he cannot remain inactive. Even when you sleep at night, the mind is still, otherwise how do you have dreams? Dreams are the result of intelligence and mind. They're active. Therefore, all living entities are punishable in proportion to the extent of one's religious or irreligious actions in this life. One must enjoy or suffer the corresponding reactions of the karma in the next. O best of demigods, we can see 3 different varieties of life which are due to contamination of the 3 modes of nature. Living entities are thus known as peaceful, restless, and foolish. In other words, if you're in the mode of goodness, you should be peaceful. If you're in that mode of passion, restless. And if you're in the mode of ignorance, foolish. They are either happy, unhappy, or in between. Religious, irreligious, or semi-religious. We can deduce that in the next life, these three kinds of material nature will similarly act. Just as springtime in the present indicates the nature of springtimes in the past and future. So this life of happiness, distress, or a mixture of both gives evidence concerning the religious and irreligious activities of one's past and future lives. In other words, as you are now indicates how you were in the past, because it's a continuum. Your mind, your intelligence, that you carry with you. When you give up this body to take your next one, something is carried on. That is your mind, your intelligence, your ego, your consciousness. That accompanies the soul. That's called the subtle body. So you've been with this for a long time. You've been carrying around this mind, intelligence, ego billions of lifetimes. And that's why we all have a certain nature, because we've been cultivating it. We have indicated to Krishna, I want to do these kinds of things. I want to act like that. Krishna says, fine. Wait a couple of births. I'll give you your chance. Then the day comes and the scenario opens out. Here's your opportunity. Go for it. So, it's not that something is overnight. Things have been developing for a long time. The omnipotent Yamaraj is as good as Lord Brahma, for while situated in his own abode or in everyone's heart like the Paramatma, Yamaraj mentally observes the past activities of a living entity and thus understands how the living entity will act in future lives. Yamaraj is not an ordinary living being. He is as good as Lord Brahma. He has the complete cooperation of the Supreme Lord, who is situated in everyone's heart. How many of you accept that? That's taught in the Bhagavad Gita, that Krishna is in your heart. How many of you believe that? Very good. That's a fundamental teaching of Bhagavad Gita, that God is in your heart. Yamaraj can decide in consultation with that supersoul the actual decisions concerning the next lives of the living entities, which are actually made by the supersoul. And they are carried out by Yamaraj. A sleeping person acts according to the body manifested in one's dreams and accepts it to be oneself. So, one identifies with the present body, which one acquired because of one's past religious or irreligious actions, but is unable to know the past and future lives. This is a question that comes up. People who doubt reincarnation, they always ask the same dumb question. Well, if there's reincarnation, how come I don't remember it? Don't be so simplistic. It is actually God's mercy that He doesn't remind you who you were in your last life. Because everybody thinks, oh, in my last life, I was so good. Just like, say you were in a terrible accident, right? And you lived. Now that memory sometimes stays with you. And it, right? So would you like that? How if God was cruel, say you were a murderer in your last life. So constantly you would remember, I did this, right? Or supposing you got raped or something bad happened to you in a previous life. God wants you to remember that all the time? No. So it's actually God's mercy that you don't remember who you were. Because most likely you were not some demigod. No. So your consciousness, you start with a fresh new slate, but the desires are still there. So that's how you know what we are talking about, reincarnation. Because of desires. Why all of a sudden you desire this? Why all of a sudden that? It's all because of what happened in the past. And like I said, the day comes, Krishna says, here you go. You've been waiting to do this. I'm giving you now a chance. You've been waiting for this for a couple of lifetimes. Go for it. You have to be very, very careful what you desire, because you will get the opportunity. And if it's bad, not good. I'll stop there. I don't want to go over time. To be continued.